This next section, we're kind of talking about how to use technology in the operations, because we've already talked about how do we go find consumers, how do we message them, what do we say, right? How do we price it, what product do we offer? We've talked about options management and selection, how we optimize the revenue of the sale and all this kind of good stuff. Well, you know, as a builder, we talked about this morning, be a retailer, be a retailer. We still are a builder. We still have operations, right? We still have a myriad of suppliers and a myriad of partners that we have to manage and deal with, and we have to optimize who we do business with and how we bring trades and materials in and how we pay them, how we schedule them. You know, all of that is critically important to our business as well. So this next section is really kind of delves into how do we use technology to improve that entire supply chain and kind of the operations side of the business. We have Ken Pinto with us, who is a renowned author and consultant in this space nonetheless. And on top of that, he's even a builder himself. So this is not some talking head that doesn't happen to know about home building. He's an expert builder all in his own right, but he has really delved into the space of supply chain management and how we can use supply chain management really as a competitive weapon in our business to drive efficiency and profitability. We welcome Paul Hansen back to the stage here as well. Paul, thank you very much for coming back as well. Paul, again, from Epcon Communities, but he's going to talk about how you work with some of your trade partners and your software vendors to improve supply chain. So after Ken talks about it overall, he's going to give us a builder example. And then, of course, we have Monica Wheaton from ECI Solutions, who's one of the premier and largest suppliers of back-end systems for builders in the supply chain. And Monica is going to help us on the panel, and we're going to talk about kind of what builders need to think about as to how to use technology to showcase their operations. So with that, we're going to get started. And again, write your questions down. We will have a more active panel in this session. There's less presentation time. Ken's kind of going to give us a good, significant presentation across why supply chains matter for a home builder. But there'll be less presentation time, and we'll have more time for Q&A and panel discussions at the end. So Ken, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great, thanks.
Welcome to the stage.
I'm going to start out with some background. So I started in construction when I was 11 years old. My last 2 years of high school, I built 5 houses. I joined the Navy Seabees in construction for the Navy for 14 years in Spain, Cuba, Guam, Japan 3 different times, and several military bases in Southern California. I left the Navy Seabees and went into the production home building business, and over 19 years, I worked for Shea Homes, Pulte Homes, Standard Pacific Homes, and Toll Brothers.
We're sorry. Aren't we? We are. No, I'm sorry. And are you looking for empathy or support group?
And in those roles, I either ran the construction department or the purchasing department or both. So I am a carpenter, a mason, a plumber, an electrician, a heavy equipment operator, most pieces, steel worker. My dad was a steel worker, and pretty good surveyor. When I left the service and I went to Shea Homes, I started out as a superintendent. Something strange happened. Someone did some drywall damage in one of my houses and didn't fess up to it. Oh, it's happened to one or two of you guys too, huh? And so I got to pay for it. I don't know who did it, but I got to pay for it. So I pull the contract folder and I'm going to see how much I need to pay him. So I know how many square feet of damage there is, so I'm going to pay him the square foot price. Plus he's already gone, so I can pay him a trip to come back here again. And so I open the contract folder, I'm looking for the unit pricing, and I can't find it. There's just one big lump sum number for the whole drywall contract. I thought, well, the purchasing manager must have this information. This is just the abbreviated or summary information that they sent out to my construction trailer. So I called the purchasing manager up and I said, hey, I can't find the unit pricing anywhere. I'm trying to do this change order. I want to pay the fair price that you've already negotiated into this contract. I can't find it. He says, oh, he goes, we don't use unit pricing. We use lump sum pricing, and we use the competitive bid process to make sure we get the right price. And then we write change orders based on, well, is reasonable. Now, to this day, I have no idea what reasonable means. Not only do I not know what reasonable means, but how in the world could you make that a consistent process across 18 different communities that we had in that division? What is reasonable? And I likened it to this. I likened it to going into a grocery store. And you've got your grocery list for a week's worth of groceries. And in this store, there are no prices on any of the products, nor on any of the shelves. But You need your week's groceries, and you go up and down the aisles, and you fill up your shopping cart, and you get to the cashier, and she rings you up and says, that'll be $246.16. And you're curious. You say, I'm just curious, how much is the milk? And she, in a very practiced way, says, it is not our policy to expose unit pricing to our customers, but we think that the environment and the selection and the service will keep you coming back week after week. And if you were to compare your week's worth of groceries here to somewhere else, you'll find our prices are competitive. Still not really sure what she just said. You say, I just want to know how much the milk is. And she folds her arms and scowls at you. Nobody would shop at that store, right? So there is no one who would shop at that store. Nobody would. But in the home building industry, we do it every day. We have a lump sum contracts, and I can point you right now to a guy who spends $150 million a year on labor and materials as a purchasing VP. He doesn't know how much he pays for a sink, a front door, or a sheet of drywall. And I've come to learn that that's important. I have slides, huh? Mm-hmm. Now, I wrote this book like it was the only book I was ever going to write. I gave away all the secrets. All the supply chain management secrets I've come up with are in the book, so that anyone who reads it can pick it up, hit the ground running, and create some great supply chain efficiencies in their organization. But what I really wanted to write is a book on supply chain analytics and how analytics can drive behavior changes. Now, if you think a supply chain management book is boring, wait till you read the supply chain analytics book. But this is what got me excited. So this is what happened. I'll give you one of hundreds of examples. So I have this process where I measure drywall. I don't bother doing takeoffs for drywall. I just go into the house after it's built with a tape measure and a clipboard, and I measure every wall, every ceiling, every closet, and I know exactly, and I measure to the inch, not to the foot. I know exactly how many square inches of half-inch drywall and 5/8 drywall are in that house. I know that a fair waste factor to apply to drywall is 9%. So I take my actual installed numbers, add the 9% waste factor, and that's exactly how much drywall I should be paying my drywaller to purchase and install. We also keep an eye on what gets stocked into the house. And so I'd call my construction manager and say, hey, when that house gets stocked for the drywall, I need you to go in there and count the sheets and tell me whether they're 10-foot sheets or 12-foot sheets, and count the sheets, and take your crayon and draw a big arrow on it so that if we know someone steals something, off the top, we know that it's missing. You'd think I was asking them to pull a front tooth. Oh my goodness. And is it that hard to get a construction manager out there to count the sheets of drywall? Oh my goodness. So sometimes I had to go out there and do it myself. And I did it because it was important. Data is important. So now I've got, this experience. I've got 12 to 18 months worth of experience across 4 different divisions, worth 4,000 houses a year, and now there's a ton of data. Now I can look at it and identify things. So one of the things that we identified is that we had a subcontractor who was working in multiple divisions in a large geographical area. And when we can take the exact amount of drywall it takes to build the house, what was it stocked, we can tell what the actual waste factor is. And we identified that on several communities that there was an 18% waste factor instead of 9%. And so we brought this to the subcontractor. We brought him into the conference room. We laid out all of our measurements, all of our documentation, the graphs, and showed him what he identified for us that we didn't spot, is that was the same crew on every one of those communities. So he had one drywall crew that was wasting a lot of drywall. Now the drywall subcontract industry is a little bit strange in that they get paid extra to waste more material. That's something we gotta fix, but not a topic for today. So these guys, if they have extra drywall, will cut it up into pieces, throw it in the front yard, and get paid for it. So as soon as this contractor found out that he had a crew that was wasting double what they should have been, that was an opportunity for improvement for him, an opportunity for him to train his people, a training identification. He said, I never would have known if you didn't show this to me. Why not? He's been in business for 24 years. They do tens of thousands of houses a year, work for builders, big, small, and medium, custom homes, production homes. Why would he never have known that he had a crew that was wasting double the amount of drywall?
They don't measure anything.
Because they don't look at that. He's managing drywall installers. He's not managing data. So Supply Chain Analytics, give me a great book. It'll cure insomnia like crazy, but man, it's going to be great. And there are things that we can do. There are skill sets that we have as a home builder that can complement what our subcontractors and building material suppliers are providing, if we do it right. So this is my thought. So I think that material takeoffs are the responsibility of the architect. I think that when the architect sends you a set of drawings, it should come with it a complete bill of materials of what it takes to build that house for every trade category in that house. Now, it may just say kitchen faucet, and then you can add in what kind of kitchen faucet, but at least he's going to say one kitchen faucet. That bill of materials that we pull off of there, we can transfer directly into subcontracts. That goes out to our subcontractors. No dual entry, no copy paste, no that. This is the way it should flow. And then the contractor does the work. We have invoiceless payments. This is when the construction schedule task is marked off as complete. The checks get wired, and money gets wired directly into their accounts. In addition to that, we need to communicate to more than just our subcontractors, because our building material suppliers and our manufacturers need this information. Now, if you start a house and the plumber knows he's got that house to build, he knows what kind of faucet and when the faucet's going to be installed, probably 4 months ahead of time, right? Then why is he giving his distributor 24 to 48 hours notice before he needs the faucet? Squandering any opportunity for a distributor to optimize inventory control. Because now they have to over inventory SKUs and quantities of SKUs just in case someone's going to order it, just in case inventory is very expensive, and all of us pay for it because it's included in the price of the materials that we're buying. Manufacturers the same way. Ask a manufacturer someday, hey, how do you guys know what to make and when to make it? You know, which color, which SKUs. It's one of the most difficult things that a manufacturer can do well. And those manufacturers that are good at it will tell you that they're not trying to guess correctly what to make and when to make it. They're trying to guess incorrectly less often. And they'll use statistical process control and Six Sigma controls to guess incorrectly less often. It shouldn't be that way. We know 4 months ahead of time what kind of faucet we're going to need. All we have to do is to tell them, but we don't. As an industry, we don't tell them. You think, well, does it really make a big difference? This is what I want you to do. I want you to go to those manufacturers who sell to big box stores, any big box store. And so your appliance, your door hardware, anyone who sells to a big box, and ask them what the difference is in their operating costs for what they do. You know, because Home Depot, Menards, Lowe's, they order 60, 90, 120 days ahead of time, giving the manufacturer ample opportunity for demand planning. Our industry doesn't allow demand planning to occur because of us ordering 24 to 48 hours before we need it. Now, this pandemic, which has created a crisis, we think have caused some supply chain problems? No, it most certainly did not. It just exposed the supply chain problems that we have had all along. There are things we do as a home building industry which we can use to help our suppliers of labor and of materials. Your framing contractor probably used to be a framer. Your electrical contractor, you probably used to be an electrician. Your finish carpenter probably used to be a carpenter. The core competency of a subcontractor is installing materials. And in my investigation of multiple divisions across multiple companies across the nation, about 15% of them are good at it. About 15% of our subcontractors are good at managing materials. The rest of them could use our help, because what we're good at, because what home builders are good at, is managing processes, right? We manage the land acquisition process, we manage the land development process, we manage the construction process, the purchasing process, the warranty process. We're very good at managing processes. And we have we have a desire to manage data. We have technology systems in our back office to manage that information. Our subcontractors don't have that same core competency.
Or the tools, as you said, they don't have the software tools.
Because they don't ask for it, because they're not looking for it. They don't see it as a problem that needs to be solved, right? So it's going to require the builder to take a leadership position and to manage those materials. You know, if you've unbundled your lump sum contracts into unit price contracts, you've gone on that road, the subcontractors, they'll be like, why? Right? Why do you want that information? Because they think you're just going to take it and beat it over the head with them. They don't realize you're going to take that data and analyze it and find out that he's got a crew that's wasting more material than he used to, than they should be. The core competency of a home builder is that we're great at managing processes. We're good at managing data. We do invest money in technology. Our subcontractors, not so much. There are things we can do to help them become more efficient. Think about this. If the plumber was not a subcontractor, but he was a department in your company, would you treat them the same way as you do right now? Would you communicate with them the same way if they were a department in your company than you do today as a subcontractor? Probably not, right? You would probably communicate with them much, much better if they were a department in your company. You'd have meetings together, you'd go down the hall and go, I can't believe you called me out to the job. It wasn't ready. You told me it was ready. And then they would solve that, right? Like right there. If not, they go to the next guy's office and go, can you believe this just happened? And so we would solve those things pretty quickly and get them done, get them solved permanently. For some reason, since we outsource, we feel like we don't really need to do that. We don't need to communicate quite as well as we do as if they were members of our own company. But we do. We really, really do. If we want them to be good at what they're good at, there's an opportunity for us to complement them with what we're good at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is an interesting concept. I tell you that I talked about the distributor who has to over-inventory SKUs and quantities of SKUs for that just-in-case inventory. The just-in-case inventory is very expensive. If you have time, I highly recommend you go sit down with one of your lumber and building material distributors and have them describe to you what the cost of inventory is. In every distributor, their number one metric is number of turns, number of inventory turns. That's how they measure the success of their business. And have them tell you what happens to inventory turns when they get 60, 90, 120-day notice. Their inventory turn, they can service the same amount of business with a smaller inventory, which equates to increased number of inventory turns. They make more money, which means that they can lower your price. Manufacturers who can make the right thing at the right time, they can source their raw materials and components much more accurately than they do today. And then when they make something, they won't have to put it in inventory. Inventory is like a four-letter word to a manufacturer. They do not like inventory. That inventory is something they think is a job of a distributor. So when they get stuck with inventory because they made something that no one ordered and didn't buy, oh my gosh, it's a big thorn in their side. They would love to be able to have enough information so that they could do proper demand planning to eliminate that. It requires great data. Without good data, you cannot analyze anything. You've got to get things nailed down to the SKU level, managing those SKUs. Now, I'm not saying you have to buy direct. I'm not a huge proponent of builders buying direct. Some are good at it, most are bad at it. But I do want you to have some control over the flow of information. The best question I ever asked, and I asked it a lot, hey, what is it we do that's costing you money? Now, the first time I asked that to subcontractors, I got a pretty safe answer. All right, I'm the customer. They don't want to say anything to offend me, right? So they're pretty safe. No, things going pretty good. Then the fourth and fifth time that you ask them, they're like, oh, well, so-and-so, that your construction manager out that community, man, every time we go out there's something wrong. There's some reason why we can't get her. The 10th, 11th, 12th time you ask that question, now they're really talking to you. They're telling you about things that we do that's costing them money. And that puts you in a position to where you can start lowering each other's costs. Because if you can lower the cost of doing business for a subcontractor or a lumber and building material distributor, it's going to come back to you. It's going to come back to you in lower pricing. More than that, it's also going to come back to you in most favored nation status, preferred builder to work for. You having trouble getting tubs right now? Well, someone's getting their tubs, and you want it to be you. You having trouble getting windows right now? Well, someone's getting their windows, and you want that to be you. And so the things that you can do besides just paying more than anybody else that sets you apart as the preferred builder to work for. And when you have that relationship to where you're working together to lower each other's costs, now you've got a good supply chain machine running. Those are my thoughts.